Hey guys, it's Harry. I've been a game designer and producer for the past 11 years, working on companies big and small. And in this video, we're gonna talk about bugs. I've worked on a big AAA ultra-realistic battle royale. I've worked on a city builder game for the Apple Arcade. I have founded my own indie studio and we created strategy games. And today I proudly work on the Age of Empires team, which is a total dream come true. Age of Empires is one of my absolutely favorite franchises. So it's been a journey, and I need to ask, how can so many games, even the biggest ones, even the most established game companies and game titles, release with so many bugs? Right? With so many bugs and glitches and crashes and whatever. Like, isn't that kind of crazy? Does it seem like the companies don't care at all? Well, that is not very true. And in this video, I want to show you guys a realistic day-to-day production of a game and how we usually manage bugs in development and beyond. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, that helps me a lot. And I'm not particularly a very good TikTok dancer, so I'm trying to provide some good old content to you guys. That said, let's dive into the video. So I want this to be a very open and straightforward conversation, and I don't see a lot of developers talking about that. Many times it's hard for you guys to know exactly what happens during a game's production, and you can only analyze the game once it's done. And that's more than fair. I do that too as a gamer. But my goal here is to bring the behind the scenes of development a little bit closer to you guys. So let me start doing some simple math with you. Even small games will very likely have hundreds of bugs, many times thousands, very easily. This is not particularly hard to achieve at all. I was in more than one meeting with my QA team many times before, and we were prioritizing like more than 200 bugs. And that was just one batch, like a single session, and it's not even a fraction of the total. Both in my current team and previous teams, we could usually have 1, 2, or 3 sessions of bug prioritization, which we call bug triage, per week. If a studio is not super small, like my own indie studio that was around 5 to 10 people, a team will usually have some dedicated QA personnel that will be constantly reporting new bugs, depending on the stage of development. Even more so when a game is already live, but even if it's not. Games are one of the most complex things humans can create. That may be exaggerating a bit, but not very much. Games are made out of complex systems, and you never know how they are going to respond. Even if I get myself to create exactly the same game that I have just created, we'll have bugs that we never did before. Maybe it's a compatibility issue with some old hardware, maybe some performance constraints that we didn't have before and that causes new issues. Virtually anything can happen that will result in a new bug ticket. I don't mean that as an excuse at all. I just want to produce and release high quality games that will stay in the market for a long time, and thousands, hopefully millions of people will get to enjoy them. I'm just telling you the reality of development. That is the day-to-day, period, crystal clear, in a big team as much as in a small one. So okay, sure, we have thousands of bugs to resolve in a span of maybe 2-year, 3-year development cycle. Okay, we get engineers and designers to fix those issues, that's our job, right? But the problem is that not a single production that I have participated in or even heard of in my life has had the opportunity to stop everything, consider the game done, and work solely on bugs. There's always more that we want to do with the game. If you watch developer interviews, every single developer will tell you, oh, we couldn't get into the game everything that we wanted. There's this feature or that feature that we wanted to add, and hopefully we can do that in the future. So pretty much every single team in the world is juggling between fixing the thousands of bugs that we need to fix and adding cool new features, characters, content, or whatever. That is it. Apart from maybe solo developers or incredibly small games, all of us are constantly managing those different priorities. What will also usually happen is that, for most games nowadays, the team will launch the game while also working on some future content, be it a DLC, a patch, or many times even a sequel. That means that part of the team will be allocated to this future project, not allowing everybody to be focused on bug fixing at the same time. And one last element before we move on with the discussion is that part of the bugs we fix will cause regressions, meaning it will generate more bugs. That is because fixing a bug is actually submitting some new code to the codebase. And as I said before, games are made out of very complex systems, and we never know how they will respond. It is very common that teams will postpone some bug fixes because they don't want to risk breaking anything else, especially when it's close to a release or a patch. I've seen that multiple times, even recently. So you see, that's just following the day-to-day of a team, nothing special. But naturally, in traditional game development, there's this stage called beta, which while poorly defined many times, it usually means that all of the systems are there in the game, all of the content is there, meaning all characters and animations and levels, and now it's time to fix bugs, polish the experience, maybe fine-tune the animations, and so on. So that would be the perfect moment for the team to stop and fix bugs, and it is. That is usually the time when the team will spend a lot of hours fixing bugs and preparing for launch. Many games, Age of Empires included, require a lot of balancing when we add a new civilization or a new campaign, and that will also go into the beta stage. The big, however subtle factor is that productions suffer when managers don't think ahead of time. Many issues that arise late in development might be easily solvable early on, but a real pain down the line, and we see that happening all the time. Either because managers are ignoring things that they should not be ignoring, or because simply the game grew too big, with too many features and characters and dialogue options, that now the scope is blowing out. We call that feature creep, and it is extremely common in game development. I used to say that feature creep was the number one problem in game development always. That might not be the case 100% of the time, but it's still a very hard issue to avoid. It is very easy to find yourself late in the beta stage, but still not really feel that the game is accomplishing everything it should, that it's not as fun, as engaging, or as clear as the developers would like to see. That is also a pitfall when studios put their games into early access or something similar. People might play and think it sucks, without realizing that maybe most games still suck at that stage. I remember that I used to watch a lot of Pixar documentaries where directors would go on and say that they had to scrap the film halfway through because it was not good at all. Imagine that. They many times had to go back to the drawing board, literally, and that is a massive cost. Because games are not linear experiences, I would say that is not as drastic in game development, but many times you do have to revisit a lot of systems or the game's storyline late in production in order to make it truly remarkable and ready for shipping. Then imagine what so many productions go through at the later stages, maybe the last 8 to 12 months before release. That might seem like a lot of time, but I can't stress enough how it really isn't. 12 months go by really fast when making a game. So in those last few bits of development, the team has to decide which bugs to fix, which features they want to improve, which scenarios to polish. It's a lot of moving parts. One of the best strategies that teams can apply to avoid that is to lean towards a more agile development, meaning that we keep a clean code base while we work, fixing bugs all the way through, trying as much as possible to avoid that late stage pile of bugs that may feel insurmountable. But even that is many times not very feasible, and here's why. Maybe most games you play, not only the AAAs, but also the AAs and even indie games, they need external funding. And when you get money from other people and other entities, you need to be accountable for that. We're talking about big bucks, usually millions of dollars. Not the kind of money you and I have available. In most contracts that I've seen, publishers or investors will give a paycheck to the developers via milestones, meaning that the developers commit to building specific parts of the game in exchange for a milestone approval, many times monthly, which grants them the money. Most contracts don't include an ongoing bug fixing budget, And that means that the team has to be constantly concerned with building new features. Fixing bugs and getting a super clean code on the way is usually not top priority. Publishers and investors invested a lot of money into the game and they need to see progress. And that's usually more visible with new features, more content, new scenarios, and so on. I don't think that's particularly a best practice, but then you need to have a conversation with capitalism. That's the reality that the vast majority of game studios have to deal with. Once again, that's not an excuse to release a game full of bugs. That achieves nothing at all. That's bad for the player, bad for the company, bad for the investors. But as I said, my goal here is simply to show you guys what most games go through during development. And maybe I can get you guys to think about that for a moment, and whenever you get a game that's good, that plays well, and it's reasonably free of bugs, you should know that's a big achievement and that the team has put a lot of effort amongst various conflicting priorities to build a game that's high quality and stable for the audience. I think it's important to have these conversations with the public because I believe that the more players know about these realities in game development, the more you guys can connect with the teams that you love, with the games that you love, and maybe change some incentives that publishers or the money holders have that do not benefit the game or the developers very much, and we may have some better practices in the end. As a producer, my job is to make sure that we can mitigate as many risks as possible during a game's production, and that we hit the mark with the highest quality that we can in the final game. And that includes solving things earlier rather than later, because each dollar is much cheaper in the first stages of a production rather than in the later ones. It's very difficult to change much in a project at beta stage. So if we only find out about a core issue late in development, many times it's not possible to fix it, only to work around it. And that's when you generally see more bugs and issues arising. Alright, I hope that brought some more clarity to you guys about what developers face creating the games you guys love. And believe me, that's more common than you think. I hope you enjoyed the content. If so, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what other topics you guys want to see covered here in the channel. I'd love to read it. That's it. I'll catch you guys next time.